Hello, this is the RPG Pundit, the final boss in Internet Shitlords. And as you may see, this is one of those rare occasions where I'm not currently smoking a damn thing. And that's because I am actually making my dinner, my soup. I spent time in a certain, you could say, monastery almost. And there you have one meal a day, right? And it's this big soup with noodles and stuff. And so this is my facsimile of that. And I've already put into it the fish stock and the beef stock, and some dill and some bean paste and some miso. And then I'm going to be continuing as I go along here. But the reason I'm doing this now and not when doing the video now while I'm cooking and not later when I'm preparing my coffee is mainly because I just couldn't resist. I couldn't wait a second longer to tell you guys about this because it's both hilarious and pathetic. The other day, yesterday, I saw a post on Twitter. And it was posted initially, when I first saw it, it was posted by a conservative gamer, a right-wing gamer. And I looked at it and I said, no, this just has to be parody. It has to be, right? So I'm grabbing some garlic here. Nice thing about this country is that you get farm fresh ingredients right next to your door. I've got literally a weekly market of farm produce right around the corner from me. Anyway, so I thought this has to be parody. There's no way that this could possibly be a real thing. And lo and behold, it was a real thing. We've gotten to the point where parody SJW fact and parody about SJW fact has become completely indistinguishable. So the thing that was posted was this checklist, which was the RPG consent checklist, right? And it's this long form that the idea is that a DM has to give this to his players, and the players get to check off a whole bunch of things. Anything that they don't like, they check it out, they check it off rather, and the DM is not allowed to use it in his game, right? This is what they want for all of us, right? This sort of situation. And the entries are just hilarious, right? It's this long freaking checklist, and it's got some standard stuff, some stuff that you can almost say, well, yeah, okay, it's probably, this is not the way to go about it, but it's probably reasonable that some people wouldn't want these things in a game, like blatant sex scenes, Venger, and like having, bad things happen to children in a game, or stuff like that, right? Racism. So there's some stuff there that you could kind of argue is reasonable. But then it goes completely into wacko territory. And the idea is anything at all that is triggering, a player should get to complain about. In fact, there are spaces left blank at the end, and the player could just add stuff. He can add stuff. I don't know. I'm wondering, could he add, not getting to level every session, and then the DM would have to level him every session? I'm not 100% sure about that, but I mean, it sounds like it because this is the idea, right? The DM is just a hostage to the emotional whims of a group of man-children that are getting to block off anything they don't like, right? But let me give you an example so that you understand just how kind of ridiculous it is. I couldn't believe some of the stuff that was on there, right? Because there's some of it extreme violence. Well, you probably shouldn't be playing an RPG if you don't like violence. But then you get to things like, for example, there was heat stroke. You're not allowed to have heat stroke in the game. Now, I guess, I don't know, it says, if the dragon breathes on me, then I'm technically dying of heat stroke, so you can't do that, I'm not sure. But, heat stroke could be triggering to someone. So if a player decides they don't want any heat stroke in the game, the DM is forbidden from using it, right? Severe weather. You can't have weather in your game. And of course, starvation or thirst. So that's a really convenient way. Some player just has to tick that off, and suddenly you never have to spend a gold piece on food ever again, right? Well, or a copper piece. It's just crazy, right? Rats, yeah, okay. I don't know why rats specifically was picked up, because they could have said other animals, right? But no. And then, there was one that I thought was especially hilarious because I saw the thought process that went into it, right? Which is police aggression, right? And you can just bet that these were a group of white game designers, which they were, by the way. I'll tell you who in a second. That said, oh, well, what about if it's a gamer of color? And you know how gamers of color are always being harassed by the police, right? Because the police spend all their time doing nothing but attacking minorities. So obviously they'd be triggered by police aggression, right? And you know that there's LA cops in every world that TSR has ever made, right? That you're playing, in the middle of the Undermountain, and suddenly this cruiser comes up and they start messing with you, just because of the color of your skin, right? So we have to include police aggression as one of the categories, right? It's just so fucking stupid, right? It's just unbelievable to me. And this whole list is there, and the idea is that this is part of the project, it's part of the whole plan, to force you to change how you play D&D to meet their ideological agenda, okay? And you believe me that ultimately they want to force you. Maybe you could say, oh, well, they can't force me. Yeah, okay, they can't force you right now. That doesn't mean they don't want to. And the fact that they want to makes them the scum that they are, right? That's still a fundamental problem, right? A person is still a censor if they really want to silence you forever but just can't because they don't have the power. They're still a censor in their heart, right? So a totalitarian is still a totalitarian in his heart, even if all he can do is dream of gulags rather than make them manifest, right? They don't have the power yet, but if they could send you to the camp, they would. So they're still every little bit as much of a Stalinist as Stalin was, right? And if you think I'm joking, well, take a look. Just the other day, we saw the New York Times praise Mao Zedong, right? Who killed 45 million people, right? Maybe more, but I'm talking about even outside of anything to do with wartime, right? He's one of the greatest mass murderers in history, and of course they praised him as a progressive rebel, right? And can you imagine if can you imagine if somebody on the right had tried to make a similar defense of, say, Francisco Franco, right? Nobody on the right would stand for that, right? We would denounce him, right? Francisco Franco was a real bastard, but he killed, outside of the Spanish Civil War, right, during his dictatorship, he killed maybe tens of thousands of people, right? Maybe if you want to go absolutely crazy with the estimate, you might get to 100,000 people, right? Mao Zedong killed somewhere upwards of 45 to 50 million people, right? Murdered them, right? Outright murdered them. And yet, if somebody made an article saying, yeah, Franco was a great, patriotic hero or something like that, the left would go insane, and the right would absolutely denounce him. They'd have nothing to do with those people again. But for the left, if it's Mao Zedong on the New York Times, that's perfectly okay, right? They're just fine with that. So think about that for a second. It means that the left basically is okay with mass murder as long as it's leftists doing it. That's the mentality here, right? If a right-winger kills 2 people, forget it, right? But if a left-winger kills 50 million people, that's fine, right? Because he was doing it for the progressive cause. That's the mentality these people have. So don't tell me that this is something optional. It's always optional until the moment they put the gun to your head, right? And the gun is the greatest political weapon, right? That's what they're doing here. That's why they don't want you to have guns, right? So this is what they want to do, imposing this kind of an agenda where at a gaming table, you are basically held hostage to ideological beliefs of other people, including people who are not even at the table. Now, who made this? Because you might say, well, this is just some Tumblr maniac, whatever, some idiot on Twitter or Tumblr or something like that. Somebody nobody's ever heard of. He's never designed a game. No. No. This consent form is part of a 20-page PDF that has just been put out by Monty Cook Games. Okay? Monty Cook. If you don't know who Monty Cook is, you're probably not too familiar with the gaming world in general. But I will enlighten you. Monty Cook was one of the two main game designers on the 3rd edition of D&D, the edition that restored the D&D to its greatness, right? Along with Jonathan Tweet. He has made dozens of other games. He's one of the most famous name brand game designers still alive today, right? And he now has his own company, Monty Cook Games. He was originally going to participate in the 5e project as well in 5th edition, but he quit due to philosophical differences with the design team. Some people claim that I was the one that got him thrown out. That's definitely not true. But in any case, Monty Cook is a huge name in role-playing, right? He did D&D 3rd edition. He did the D20 Call of Cthulhu, which is one of the greatest versions of Call of Cthulhu ever made. I mean, the guy has really good design chops, though I will note that I think that he tends to be over credited for 3rd edition and Jonathan Tweet undercredited. But the point stands. This is a huge name in gaming. And he, together with Shanna Germain, who made, I think, what was it, No Thank You Evil or something like that, this stupid RPG for kids. I think that's the person we're talking about here. And Sean K. Reynolds. They all got together. They did a 20-page PDF about consent in RPGs. Okay? That's the people who have done this. And they didn't do it. You know, they are very explicit about why they made this, right? They have made this to present an ideological weapon in the culture war into the role-playing game scene. And if you don't believe me, you can go and download the PDF. It's for free, because who would ever pay for that shit, right? But you can go take a look, and you will see that it says there, starkly and plainly, I am quoting here, what it says is sometimes in an RPG group, you may run into someone with different beliefs from your own. I repeat, with different beliefs from your own. And that can't happen. No RPG is worth that. I'm quoting directly. No RPG is worth it to have to be in a room with someone who believes something different than you. Oh my God. Right? Like, can you imagine if someone believes something different from me, Ginger, someone believes something different from me, and I'm stuck gaming with them where their ideology has absolutely zero effect on my elf, but in the very fact that they're there, they might even have voted different from me, right? They might have voted for the orange man, who everyone knows is bad, right? That can't be allowed. How is this person even allowed in gaming, much less at my table? We can't allow that. So things like this consent form will make it really clear. If you don't have things that trigger you that you want out, you know, especially the trick questions, like if you don't oppose police aggression in Waterdeep, right, then clearly you're probably one of those, you know, all white, you know, those guys, right? The N-word, not the N-word that some people used to call it, but the 4-letter N-word, right? So, you know, this is what these people are thinking, right? They literally believe that that you need to be so ideologically pure that you cannot be sitting at a table with someone who thinks differently than you. That's what the left has come to today, right? It's just so goddamn pathetic. It really is. For starters, that's what it is. It's pathetic. It's sad. These are pathetic human beings. They're demi-humans, right? They don't have the basic capacity that an adult has to be able to consider views other than their own. And you doubt that they would, if they had the power, if they had the ideological power, the political power, if they had the weapons, if they had the potential for violence to do it, if they could pass the legislation, do you really doubt that they wouldn't be criminalizing ideas different than their own? If they believe that someone with an idea different than their own should not even belong on the same gaming table as them, then obviously they believe that people with ideas different than their own should not be allowed to, work, to have a business, have public office, to be in any position of authority, to be to go to school, right? Because there they could affect the other children, right? That those people need to be put in some kind of special camp where they can be retrained and educated not to think differently from me, right? That's what they're thinking. So if you doubt for a second that the modern left believes in the gulag, here is your proof, right? And these guys are obviously you're right that if you think that they can't make you use this at your table right now, but they can make it happen in convention tables. They can make it happen in gaming stores. They could create this pressure and create this environment where it's perfectly okay for leftist gamers to sit down at a table and demand this, right? So it's fine for you. You don't have to worry about the culture war if you're just going to stay locked in a cabin somewhere playing D&D for the rest of your life alone, right? But assuming you care about the culture in general, you have to participate. You have to fight against this sort of stuff and for freedom of speech. Because if not, what you're really doing is being a complete coward. You're content with living out the remainder of your days protected by your relative independence and the vestige of the freedoms we once had. But you're perfectly fine with the next generation being turned into what we see today in Venezuela, right? You're perfectly fine with these people destroying 250 years of liberal Enlightenment tradition, right? That's what you're saying. So please don't do that. You have to stand up to this. You have to mock these people. You have to insult these people. You have to point out how these people are totalitarians and fight back against them. I guess that's it for today. I didn't get very far in making my soup because it's hard to soup and rant at the same time. But just so you see, we got the green pepper here, onion, 2 different types of hot sauces. There's an egg there. That's some cabbage. I sometimes use bok choy, but today I couldn't get some. Then you add a little bit of meat. You add some noodles in there, curry paste, and obviously you want to have some rice vinegar. So yeah, that's basically it. Someday I'll do a proper cooking episode, but I probably need someone to film me while I'm doing it or something. If you like this video, please share it. Tell everybody about this. Show them. Go look up that consent thing on Twitter, the RPG consent form. I'll probably have it on my Twitter feed at some point. I think I've retweeted it actually. Tell people about how Monty Cook is basically a Stalinist. And yeah, subscribe if you haven't subscribed already, and hit the notification bell because we are constantly seeing cases of people who are not being notified. Even if you hit the notification bell, they won't notify you sometimes. So this is the best we can do. But that's why I also count on you guys, and I'm sorry to always keep pushing this, but please share the videos. YouTube will not do me any favors. They're not going to put the video up for me. They're not going to promote it for me because I don't think like they do. I'm one of those people that has a different belief from them, so they're not going to promote it, right? So if you do believe what I believe, what I've said today, then please share the video. If you want to support me any more than that, I have a Patreon page and a PayPal button, but rather than going to those, you may want to consider picking up some of my products like Cults of Chaos or Lion and Dragon, which you can see on the background there, or look at my RPG Pundit Presents PDF series. There'll be a link in the description below. It's a weekly serial that every week it's a new issue that has some other topic, for books that are anywhere between, 8 to 30 pages. There's adventures, there's monster manuals, there's random tables, there's all kinds of stuff like that you can use and that you can use for your game. And it costs between 99 cents to like $4.99. So you'll find somewhere in the 91 issues of RPG Pundit Presents, you are pretty much bound to find something of interest. The latest one is 100 weird gonzo fantasy features, which is a big D100 table with descriptions of 100 different things, random events, encounters, places, weird groups. So it's basically like 100 different seeds of ideas for for a DM who wants to add a weirder element to his fantasy. Be sure to check that out. But if you don't like that idea, if you don't like weird fantasy, then you can look at my medieval authentic stuff that's also being put out in RPG Pundit Presents. There's the magical grimoire based magic for you to add to your D&D campaign or something like that. So check all of that out and pick up something. Give me your support. But more than anything, share the video. All right. Currently smoking, not a damn thing.